The Nile is the fountain of life and the river of death. It's a fertile green ribbon in one of the driest deserts on Earth. But when there's only one reliable source of water for hundreds of kilometers, competition is fierce. If you're going to cut it in the Nile, you better be cutthroat. Beyond the crocodiles, venomous snakes, and hippos, there are a host of hunters ready to strike from above, below, and sometimes from inside out. These hunters have weapons like electricity, constriction, and parasitic punishment. And one of them is even responsible for more human deaths than any other animal on Earth. This is how to live and die in the Nile. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. The Nile is synonymous with danger. Even a person obsessed with wildlife like me would think twice about setting foot in it. It's so long, mysterious, and dangerous that it really has a character of its own. So before we get into the animals, let's meet the main character. The Nile is a river in Egypt, or at least it flows into the Mediterranean in Egypt, but the rest of it has been a historical mystery until very recently. Ancient Egyptians believed that it flowed straight from the realm of the gods of both life and destruction, but they seem to have been wrong about this. Even though its physical source remained one of geography's top unanswered questions until the 1800s, the jury is still out on whether it's technically the longest river on the planet or not. It all depends on which tributaries and seasonal channels you count. That's because the Nile isn't really just one river. It's a constantly changing network of ecosystems. From wetlands to rainforests, to savannas, to desert. And it's all stitched together by water, flowing north from Lake Victoria and the Ethiopian highlands to the Mediterranean Sea. That's a lot of water to house a lot of animals. In a place this crowded, there's always something trying to eat something else. Nile crocodiles are the face of the river, but there's a snake that could give even them a heart attack. Literally. If you had to guess which snake is the certified crocodile hunter, you might go for the deadly Egyptian cobra, black mamba, or horned viper. But the ultimate croc-killing machine doesn't need venom at all. It hunts using nothing but muscle and timing. This is the African rock python, Africa's largest snake. It's an ambush predator from the African swamps that can grow over 6 meters long. The Nile River sprouts in the jungle around Lake Victoria, the largest tropical lake in the world, and home to both of these terrible reptiles. The African rock python ranges across much of sub-Saharan Africa, but here, the Nile gives it exactly what it needs: a natural wildlife gathering point of shallow, swampy water through an otherwise dry landscape. A perfect spot to lie motionless, waiting, sometimes for days. When something wanders close enough, the strike is explosive. The python coils its muscular body around its prey and tightens its grip with every exhale, cutting off blood flow to the brain. Death usually comes from cardiac arrest, not from suffocation or crushing. Victims often lose consciousness within seconds. Mercifully. Okay, merciful might be a strong word for being wrung like a dishcloth. Antelope, goats, warthogs, hyenas, and of course the occasional Nile crocodile are all on the menu. There are confirmed cases of African rock pythons swallowing crocodiles whole. Yes, mostly juveniles, but still impressive. So why the death hug instead of venom? The rock python's prey is large and fast. After being bitten, they'll run away, often beyond the snake's range. But being able to wring their prey to submission ensures not only that the prey is killed quickly, but also that it doesn't escape. And after its massive meal, a rock python might not need to eat again for months. For the prey, it's a quick ending, and though it's brutal, it gets to live a nicer life than many of the animals around us. Did you know that over 99% of farmed animals in the US are raised on factory farms? This means poor conditions for these animals and practices that harm our environment as well. Even if you're an occasional meat eater like I am, I'm sure you can agree that situations like these are unacceptable. So that got me thinking, what can we do about it? That's where the sponsor of today's video, FarmKind, comes in. They work with experts to research and vet charities that help factory-farmed animals. Each dollar given goes directly to charities, who then help as many animals as they can. I love how FarmKind's website explains exactly how your donation goes to helping our furry friends. They calculate what kind of impact your money will have. Like, donating just $15 a month can help almost 350 animals a year. FarmKind has a compassion calculator to figure out how much you'd need to donate to offset your diet. I was able to input mine and see what my offset looks like. Looks like if I donated $18 a month, that would do more good than if I stopped buying animal products altogether. And because FarmKind is grant-funded, they won't take a cut out of your donation, meaning 100% of what you give goes straight to their recommended charities that are freeing millions of animals from cruelty and developing new food systems for a better future. And if you'd like to donate even just a small amount, check out the link in the description, and if you use my code Animalogic, your donation will get a 50% boost from pledges by larger donors. So check them out. I'm sure you'll be impressed with the work they do. Despite their reputation, people have kept them as pets. When African rock pythons become too big to handle, some owners release them into the wild. In parts of Florida, that's turned them into an established invasive species. But there is a mushy side to the rock python. They're usually great moms. After laying up to 100 eggs, females stay with their clutch, coiling around it to guard against predators. They'll even shiver the same muscles they use to kill to keep their eggs warm. That maternal care pays off, but the Nile has a way of balancing the books. Sometimes, the python's prey grows up, and when it does, it becomes the Nile's most famous executioner. The Nile crocodile is the animal most iconic of this deadly river. You probably already have a mental image. Cold eyes, armored skin, a bite force strong enough to crush bone, and just a whole lot of sheer mass. The largest ever Nile croc recorded reached over 6 meters and weighed over 1,000 kilograms. That's more than a lot of cars. So on the bright side, I imagine being swallowed whole might actually feel surprisingly spacious, all things considered. Around 200 people die in the jaws of a Nile croc each year. They're one of the few animals known to actively hunt humans. They see a person washing their clothes by the river the same way they do a buffalo grazing near a bank. Nile crocodiles float at the surface with only their eyes and nostrils exposed. Transparent third eyelids, called nictitating membranes, let them see clearly under murky waters while staying hidden. Like the rock python, they can wait for hours concealed, all for one mistake at the water's edge. When they strike, it's over fast. Think of it as the Nile's version of a jump scare. Their bite force is powerful enough to crush bone. It's about 30 times stronger than ours and roughly 8 times more than a lion's. Once in their fangs, they often drag their prey underwater to drown them. What they can't do, though, is chew. Once they grab something, they either swallow it whole or tear it to shreds using gravity, leverage, and the infamous death roll. It makes sense that they wouldn't evolve to waste time chewing. because these crocs are all about convenience. They are classic opportunistic hunters. They'll eat almost anything. Insects, fish, zebras, giraffes, and carrion, aka dead animals. Hey, a free meal is a free meal. They're so savage, they're even well known for cannibalizing smaller crocs, even their blood relatives. They do this during territorial disputes, food scarcity, or, just because they can. Surprisingly, the muscles that open their jaws are pretty weak. So yes, a crocodile's mouth can technically be held shut with tape or a rope. That said, please don't try this at home if you live in the middle of the Nile. Despite them being apex predators, they were almost hunted to extinction. By the 1950s, intense hunting for their skins pushed Nile crocodiles to the brink of extinction across much of their range. Entire generations grew up in some parts without ever seeing one. Only after protections were put in place did their populations begin to recover, although they still remain extinct from the Mediterranean coast and much of the Nile Delta. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the crocodile god Sobek represented both protection and destruction. A reminder that the Nile's most feared animals were also seen as guardians of the river itself. Today, Nile crocodiles are once again among the most dominant predators in the Nile. That's not to say there aren't other terrifying crocs. You could come across the African dwarf crocodile, the Central African slender-snouted crocodile, or the West African crocodile. But none of these crocs compare to the size and power of the Nile crocodile. They're easy prey for a hungry croc. But there's always a bigger animal, and in the case of the Nile crocodile, the giant they hide from is one we often see as a gentle soul. These are African elephants, the largest land mammals on Earth. Don't get me wrong, they're absolutely amazing and I love them. They're intelligent, social, emotional, and are responsible for killing around 500 people a year. But let's talk about their awkward croc-relationship first. When do they meet Nile crocs? Sailing down the White Nile, the river spills out into floodplains and savanna ecosystems. This is where elephants and crocodiles are often forced into close quarters. Both rely on the river's lush vegetation and water sources, especially during the dry season at crowded watering points. When something attempts to disturb elephant calves at the water's edge, the response is immediate. There are even documented cases of adult elephants trampling crocodiles flat, flipping them with their tusks or smashing them against riverbeds. So even though my toxic trait is believing I could walk into a group of elephants and they would accept me as one of their own, these are deadly animals that we need to respect. And if we're in their turf, we also need to fear them. They even instill fear into the hippopotamus too, which have an infamous reputation in their own right. Hippos also kill around 500 people a year in Africa and are notorious for their aggressive and unpredictable nature. They'll even take on Nile crocs. In most cases, they're shoot first, ask questions later kind of guys. But hippos are known to actively avoid elephants and will respectfully make room for them at watering holes. Game recognized game, and they know that they can be easily overpowered by the elephant's sheer size and powerful tusks. So they smartly steer clear of fights they cannot win. Elephants don't hunt hippos or crocodiles for fun. They simply refuse to tolerate threats. Talk about setting healthy boundaries. Back to us, with shrinking habitats, aggressive encounters between people and elephants are becoming more common. Poaching is a major threat, too. African savanna elephants are now endangered, a loss that would ripple across the entire Nile ecosystem. Elephants are certified ecosystem engineers. They maintain floodplains by trampling vegetation, pooping out seeds as they travel, and even digging wells used by other animals and people during droughts. And all of that The wetlands, the floodplains, the green life clinging to the edge of the desert exists because of one defining feature of the Nile. Normally, flooding is a disaster. Along the Nile, it's a gift, or at least it used to be. As the Nile moves towards Egypt, the landscape dries out fast. Without the river, almost nothing would survive here. But once a year, the Nile used to spill over its banks, and with it would carry nutrient-rich soil across the floodplain and leave behind moist, fertile mud, perfect for growing crops. This annual cycle allowed ancient Egyptians to farm in the middle of the desert and build one of the world's earliest civilizations. Farther south, Nubian kingdoms like Kush also rose along the Nile, relying on the same floods to grow and transport food and support dense human populations. But floods didn't just move soil, they moved hunters. As waters rose and fell, fish were carried into shallow pools and flooded fields, sometimes stranding predators in places people didn't expect them. What do you think was the weirdest of these stranded predators? Let's dive under to see how shocking the Nile can really be. The electric catfish is, quite literally, a swimming taser. These are fish that can generate shocks of up to 350 volts, which is basically like sticking your hand into a wall socket. It's enough to stun and catch fish, deter predators, and surprise unsuspecting fishermen. And while they're not typically fatal to humans, I imagine stepping on one would absolutely ruin the day of anyone walking barefoot in the Nile. Its body has been described by scientists as resembling a bloated sausage, which does not prepare you for the fact that most of its body is wrapped in an electric organ. The strategy is simple. Sit still, pretend to be a log, and electrocute anything foolish enough to get close. We get it, man. You're in charge around these parts. In any case, electricity is just one of the methods to survive out there in the Nile. Some rely on speed, blades, and relentless aggression. The African tigerfish looks like someone gave a torpedo a mouthful of knives. With piercing eyes and razor-sharp teeth, tigerfish are among the most aggressive freshwater predators on Earth. Their genus name, Hydrocinus, translates to water dog in ancient Greek, because according to ancient philosophers, they have that dog in them. They replace all their teeth at once to maintain a gap-free, penetrating bite. As their old teeth fall off, a complete set is just beneath it, ready to take over. Which is horrifying, but also an incredible party trick. And they don't stop at the water's surface like most fish. And maybe you need that type of grit to cut it in the Nile. Tigerfish aren't just aggressive, they're built for motion. They thrive in fast, well-oxygenated water where prey is constantly moving, using the river's flow instead of fighting it. That makes sense in a river like the Nile, which doesn't move at one speed. The Blue Nile begins in the mountainous Ethiopian highlands, fed by monsoon rains. As it rushes downhill, the river narrows and accelerates through rocky channels and cataracts. Eventually, the torrential Blue Nile merges with the slower White Nile in Sudan and forms the main Nile River. The Nile is a river that is always changing the pace for anything trying to survive in it. This is reminding me how not every predator along the Nile chooses a single lane. Some look at that chaos and think, why limit myself to one kind of prey when I can hunt in the water, on land, and in between? Nile monitors are large, muscular lizards built for adaptability. They're jacks of all trades. They can sprint up to 30 kilometers an hour, climb trees, and hold their breath underwater for 15 minutes. Their long, rudder-shaped tails help them swim and double as weapons. And we're not talking a tiny, cute gecko running around underfoot. Nile monitors can grow over 1.8 meters long, about as long as a bison. And if you're born under the conditions they are, you probably wouldn't grow up so gentle either. Nile Monitor mothers lay their eggs in abandoned termite mounds, then leave. Months later, the hatchlings crawl out vulnerable, but fully independent. They'll eat anything: fish, insects, eggs, carrion, frogs, and small mammals. But their boldest move? Raiding crocodile nests. Sometimes they work in pairs for the ultimate heist. One monitor distracts the mother, the other steals the eggs. That is diabolical teamwork. Their adaptability is so extreme that escaped pets have established invasive populations in Florida, like the African rock python. There, they compete with native species and raid the nests of birds, American crocs, and gators. Classic Florida man behavior. It's a reminder that ecosystems like the Nile work because of long-evolved balances. And when a predator enters a system without that history, biodiversity is often the first thing to suffer. And the health of the Nile is important for animal and humankind alike. We've talked about ancient kingdoms, but even today, the Nile remains a lifeline for Egypt. Around 95% of Egypt's population lives within a few kilometers of the river. It supports agriculture, provides drinking water, and generates electricity through the Aswan High Dam, which now regulates flooding and controls the river's flow. But controlling a river doesn't remove danger. We've followed danger into the water and on land. And it's finally time to reveal the animal that has killed the most people in the world, and that calls the Nile its home. For this one, we need to stop looking for something big in front of us. Let's squint our eyes and try looking up. The pesky mosquito. Who would have guessed that the deadliest Nile animal doesn't have teeth, claws, or even a spine? While crocodiles and hippos kill dozens or hundreds of people each year, mosquitoes kill hundreds of thousands. That's more than any animal on Earth, by a hefty margin. Anopheles mosquitoes transmit malaria, a disease that has shaped Nile civilizations for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian medical texts describe fevers and chills that were almost certainly malaria. And mosquitoes have been doing this for a very long time. They have been around for over 200 million years, with fossils showing them biting dinosaurs, which feels rude, but extremely on brand. Mosquitoes depend on the Nile's seasonal flooding. Shallow, slow-moving pools left behind by receding waters become perfect breeding grounds, like in the areas around Lake Tana in Ethiopia. The wild thing is that only females bite. They need the protein in blood to produce eggs, which means every mosquito bite you've ever had was basically an unsolicited collab between Twilight and prenatal appointment. Today, 95% of malaria cases occur in Africa, many in regions shaped by rivers like the Nile. Simple precautionary measures like bed nets, screens, and repellents still save lives. But mosquitoes aren't the only tiny, gigantic threat. Freshwater snails don't look dangerous, and that's the problem. They host parasitic worms called schistosomes. They tend to cluster in the calmest parts of the river, shallow pools, canals, and floodplain edges where people spend the most time in the water. I like to call that a case of the escargot away. These parasites leave the snail, drift through the water, and penetrate human skin. No bite or sting required. Weeks later, adult worms begin attacking organs from inside the body. This can lead to kidney and liver damage, learning difficulties, and even bladder cancer. Schistosomiasis was so common in ancient Egypt that scientists have detected it in mummies. Ancient Egyptians recognized its symptoms and even warned against polluted water. Today, over 200 million people worldwide are infected. Climate change is expected to make this worse in many regions. And this is just one example of the changes the Nile faces today. The Nile's wetlands are some of the most biologically dense places on the continent. From the marshes near Lake Victoria, through the vast reservoirs around Lake Nasser, to the Barula swamps at the river's Mediterranean edge. These flooded landscapes support everything, from African fish eagles and massive schools of fish, to reptiles like flat-shelled turtles, and millions of migrating birds that use the river as a continental highway. Those same wetlands also feed and support millions of people, but they're under growing pressure from dams, pollution, invasive species, and a climate that's making floods less predictable. Across the basin, conservation efforts focus on working with local communities to protect habitat while keeping fishing and farming possible. Protecting the Nile is about preserving the entire living system that has kept both human civilizations and wildlife, yes, even the scary ones, alive for millennia. For thousands of years, the Nile has sustained civilizations, inspired myths, and shaped history. Herodotus once wrote, "Egypt is the gift of the Nile." But every gift comes with fine print. The Nile isn't just a river. It's a living system shaped by ancient floods, chaos, strange adaptations, microscopic threats, and predators that have been surviving here far longer than we have. There's no point in being in denial about it. Sorry, I had to before the video ended. But if you liked learning about the Nile River and the weird predators in it, stick around for an episode all about the Amazon, where we talk about some of the deadliest species in South America. So what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Don't forget to check out FarmKind to help us improve the lives of millions of farm animals. You can make a huge difference.